Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Mike. You already know what is up and what is good. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my top 5 underrated teams going into the 2018-19 season. Now, let's just get right into it. My top 5 team going into the season. Starting at number 5, I got the Miami Heat. Now, the reason I have the Miami Heat at number 5 is because, one, Dion Waiters is coming back to this team, and you have to remember that the Heat were actually a decent team, and they could beat most of the teams in the league when Dion Waiters was healthy. He just brings a different dynamic to their lineup that just somehow, when he's there, their rotation is better, their defense is a lot better, their scoring is up, and that's one of the struggles that they had. The Heat were good at defense without him when he was injured this year, but when he is there with them, their scoring goes up as well, and then that adds a different dynamic to your team to where you can. Plus they have really good depth in their bench. The Miami Heat have a lot of good players. They have a really good collection of those, like, how do I say it, like those players that are really good, and they just have like those. They have a lot of like B to B plus players, B to B minus, C plus. They have a lot of those guys that they just work hard and they just do the little things on the court. But when Dion Waiters comes back, their scoring will go up. Their defense is already good. I'm not sure what they're gonna do with Whiteside though. I'm seeing that they're trying to get rid of him. I don't know. I know he's unhappy there, and I know they didn't really work out too well. But I know that I think they should keep him. I don't know, cause yeah, actually no, I don't think they should. I think they should get rid of him, of Whiteside. But yeah, I think the Miami Heat, when Waiters comes back, Bam Adebayo, I know he got injured a lot this season. He was a big part of their success too. So with him coming back and then Bam, they have like I said, they have really good depth in their roster, and they have a lot of those guys that are like B plus to B minus to B players, and they have like, that's their whole roster pretty much. Those B plus to B guys, and Dion Waiters is probably the B plus guys as well. So maybe an A minus, especially A minus on some days. He can definitely be an A minus guy on some days. But I definitely see the Heat slipping into the playoffs next year if everything goes right with them. So they are my team at number 5, the Miami Heat. But next, let's get into the number 4 team. Is the Detroit Pistons. Now, the only reason I say the Pistons is because similar to the Heat, actually, they started off the season really well. I think they were like, I know the Heat were like the 1 or 3 seed at one point. They were like 27-19. They had the 3rd seed, but the the Pistons, actually, they were I think they were like the 1 seed at some point, like 17 to 20 games into the season. They were like 14-3. They were actually one of the surprising teams early in the season, but that was like really early, and that was when Reggie Jackson was actually healthy for their team. And I know a lot of guys aren't high on Reggie Jackson, but I was actually one of the few, or I am actually one of the few people that is actually really high on Reggie Jackson. I think he fits well with this team. I just think he does, and it just shows when he's healthy, this team is actually pretty decent. And because I know when he got injured, their guard play was a little lackluster. But when he comes back and they got the Blake Griffin trade, they have the 2 dominant bigs in the East. 2 out of like, I can't even remember. I'm trying to think of who else. I know they got Embiid. I'm trying to think who else have dominant bigs in the East. I know Miles Turner's on the rise. Kristaps, but he's injured. I think that's like, so they have like 2 of the 4 dominant bigs in the East. So if they can use, and then you got Dwayne Casey coming back, and if he implements his system to this team well, I think they can really win around like 45 to 48 games. Because they don't have the roster that the Raptors do, but because they don't have 2 all-stars like the Raptors do, but they definitely have some good players on their team. They just got Glenn Robinson III from my Pacers, so he was one of our best wing defenders when he was healthy. He's a great young defender. So yeah, I think him coming in there, that adds depth to their bench. I'm pretty sure they added somebody else. No, they didn't. They just got Glenn Robinson III. But anyways, yeah, Glenn Robinson coming in, Dwayne Casey coming in, Reggie Jackson coming back from his injuries, Blake Griffin coming back to a healthy new season, fresh new season. So hopefully he can stay healthy. That's what I was trying to get at. Hopefully he can stay healthy the most of the season. I know he's injury prone. Drummond is a consistent player. He's always playing. So I think they can really put together a successful season with the Pistons. So hopefully I could see them sliding into the playoffs. So don't underestimate the Pistons next year. So hopefully they can slide in there. My next team is actually the Denver Nuggets at number 3, and they were one of my sleeper teams this season, and one of my teams that I think will actually be really good in the future because they have a lot of depth in their roster. They need to let Kenneth Faried go. They need to let him go or trade him so they can get more depth to their roster because their roster is already deep enough. They got Murray, Trey Lyles, Harris, Jokic. They just drafted Michael Porter Jr. They got back Will Barton, so they have a really good core that they can build around, and they already have built around. So, and they were only one game away from making the playoffs last year. But then again, you got the LeBron coming to the Lakers, so maybe they might slide into the playoffs. But that's gonna push some teams down in the West, but in the East, that's gonna push some teams up. So that's how that goes. So hopefully the Nuggets can put together another season like they did this year. Also, Paul Millsap, he was injured most of the season, or for a good part of it at least. So hopefully they can have their power forward back. So yeah, they have a really nice roster. I hope they can win. I think they'll win around 50 plus games, or around 50 games this season or next season. So yeah, I think the Nuggets are my 3rd team, and my number 2 team at the underrated teams is the Indiana Pacers. I think I'm not saying this out of bias, but I do think they're one of the better teams in the East. Just because they match up so well against every team. They've beaten every team in the NBA, and they've beaten every elite powerhouse in the West and East at least once, except the Rockets. The one team that they could not beat for some reason was the Rockets. But when we did play the Rockets, we did have some key players injured, so hopefully we can come back. Plus the Rockets did get kind of worse because they lost to Ariza. We don't know what they're going to do with Clint Capella. So yeah. But then again, they still have Harden and Chris Paul, so they're still a good team. They're still a great team, but the Pacers can just match up well with everybody. You saw that against the Cavs, but LeBron just willed his way past those Pacers. So plus they got robbed a couple games. Lost to a game winner. And actually, Miles Turner most people don't remember this, but Miles Turner actually fouled out in Game 7, and the game was close. So, hopefully, if they they won't get another crack at it because LeBron left the East. But against, when the Pacers played the Sixers, I recommend you guys go watch the Philly and Pacers games throughout the season. Watch the highlights of those games because you could see, down the stretch, the Sixers could not find an answer for Oladipo. They cannot stop him, and they just couldn't close out the game. Every game was close, I think. Yeah, every game we beat the Sixers that was close, or we didn't blow them out. We won. I think they won, I know the one game they won early in the season when we had no idea what we were doing yet. But, plus injuries. The Pacers had a lot of injuries early in the season and the middle of the season, so they were one of the teams that were plagued with injuries, kind of, and they still won 48 games. So I think they won they lost 11 games due to injuries, 11 or 12, and if they get half of those games back, they're a 54-win team. So. But they did lose Lance. They're letting a lot of good players walk. And a lot of their targets that they're targeting to make their season better, they're getting swooped up by other teams. So it's every big name target, every target to make their team better for the Pacers is it's getting taken away from them. So it's like, what are we supposed to do now? Who are they going to sign to make to get pressure off of Oladipo so he doesn't have to do everything for another season? So hopefully they can get some trades together and get some maybe sign a sleeper team, because the Pacers are one of those teams that they're really low key when they try to make the big moves. They don't tell anybody, and they just do it out of nowhere. So that's why you just have to be patient with the Pacers. So yeah, I think the Pacers are one of those. I think they're one of the better teams in the East. I don't think it's Philly. I really don't. I just think the Sixers are a little overrated, but I think Boston, Indiana, Philly, maybe. I just don't see it. I'm not hating on the Sixers. I'm really not. I just think that you saw it in the playoffs how they just can't close games yet because they don't have that experience. But I'm not saying they're not a great team. They're a good team, but they're just not that elite yet. And they lost their really good shooting. They lost their shooting in Ilyasova and Marco Bellinelli, so they got Redick back. But yeah, maybe they still get get Kawhi. So, but yeah, as far as right now, I definitely see the Pacers as a better team than the Sixers, and I actually think they're right there with the Celtics. Call me crazy if you want, maybe even biased, but I could just see, like, you guys can go watch the highlights of the Pacers and Celtics series, or not series, but games as well. When everybody is healthy, aside from Hayward, including Kawhi, they just play so well. Every game was close. They threw that one game away, literally, when Bogdanovich threw the pass, Terry Rozier intercepted the pass, literally threw that game away. If they won that game, they won the season series 3-1. So yeah. But I think the Celtics and Pacers and Sixers are pretty, I don't want to say neck and neck, but definitely the Celtics are up top. And then I think it's the Sixers or Pacers, but I just don't think the Sixers are as elite or as good as people say they are. Because all I hear is people saying is just Philly and Philly and Boston, which I don't think is the case, because I can just do a whole other video on the Pacers alone and just underrated teams in general. But yeah, as far as right now and in general, the Pacers are a better team than the Sixers, so they are my number 2 spot in the top 5 underrated teams going into the next season. But for my number 1 team, I had the Utah Jazz. The Utah Jazz, I mean, their team was led by a rookie who no one saw in the draft coming, and the sad thing is, my Pacers passed on him in the draft. Imagine a Donovan Mitchell and Victor Oladipo backcourt. Wow. Anyways, we passed on him, so he ends up going to the Utah Jazz. They have a very established center in Gobert, sharpshooter, and a decent defender, and Joe Ingles. Derek Favors, I just saw come back. I just saw the report pop up. They just got Derek Favors back. Rubio, who's coming back off an injury. They got Exum, and then I don't know how often Cephalou should play when he was healthy, but yeah, they just drafted Grayson Allen. I think he fits well into that team as well. Then you got Crowder off the bench, and then obviously Donovan Mitchell at the shooting guard position. And they are a really tough defense. They slow you down. They can control the pace. They can control the pace of a game just like that. So they can slow you down. Their defense is really well. No one can really score over Gobert. Defensive Player of the Year. So the Jazz are in a really really good spot. Completely opposite. They're in a really good spot right now, and they only won 48 games. So, and this is just the beginning for them. And plus, they had a rough stretch to start the season. And then they started figuring things out. I think Gobert was injured. I think that was why. I'm pretty sure that was why. But yeah, Gobert came back in the lineup, and everything just kind of fixed itself. And then they started winning games. Their defense really improved. And then you got Donovan Mitchell coming out of nowhere. So the Jazz are in a really good spot, guys. A really good spot. And you guys, Utah Jazz fans, and plus the Pacers and the Jazz both lost key players, Paul George and Gordon Hayward. I mean, the Jazz lost, I think they lost like 4 decent players. Like George Hill was one of them. And then they lost, obviously, Gordon Hayward to the Celtics. But the Pacers really took a huge hit. The Pacers and Jazz, they really took a huge hit, but yet they were still able to surprise everybody in the league. The 2 best surprising teams in the NBA this year. definitely the Pacers and Jazz. The Pacers, they lost 11 players. Only 3 players, I think 3 or 4 players from the Pacers team from last year, 17-18, or 16-17, are on this team, 17 and 18. And then the Jazz, they just took a huge hit. I mean, they were weren't they like a 51-win team, and they only lost 4 or 3 less games, led by a rookie. So the Jazz in a really good spot, as well as the Pacers. The Jazz I think are in a better spot because their defense is just outstanding, and I don't know. I think the Pacers are younger, so I don't know. I think the Pacers. I know they were like the Pacers were like the 3rd youngest team in the playoffs, and they were right there. I think they're one of the best teams in the East. And then you got the Jazz, who were underrated all season. And then they got that huge. I forget how much wins they won in a row, or games they won in a row. So, yeah, the Jazz are hugely very underrated this season and going into next season. Hopefully they can get that 51 season next year. I'm really pulling for them. But yeah, I think they're one of my sleeper teams in the East or West next year, and in the NBA in general. So there goes my list, guys. That is my top 5 underrated teams going in the 2018-19 season. And my next video is most likely going to be my top 5 teams that must make a jump next season. So look out for that. I'm probably going to get that up tomorrow or the next day, whenever this goes up, probably the next day after that. So but yeah, guys, don't get discouraged if your team was not in this, because there was a lot of teams I could have put in this. The Grizzlies, I know, because the Grizzlies, remember when the Grizzlies were healthy, they were winning like 50 to 55 games a season. So the Grizzlies, the Knicks, the only reason I didn't put the Knicks in there was because of Kristaps Porzingis' injury. But they were doing really well. They started figuring things out in like the early middle of the season. But then Kristaps got injured, so that kind of pushed them back, and then they kind of had the bad season. But maybe in 2019-2020 they can get that. Maybe they can slide into the playoffs. But yeah, there were a few teams I could have put in here, but I just thought that these teams were the top 5 in my opinion. So let me guys know what you think about my list. Let me know what your guys' team is and how you guys see them falling into next season and what you guys think. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Let me guys know about your team and what you guys want them to do next season. And let me know what you guys think about my list. So again, thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you guys have a great day. See ya.